What's up, guys? My name is Ace, and today we're going to be going over all of the launch equipment, field upgrades, wildcards, and also a brief section on perks that we can expect to see at launch for Black Ops 6. Now, they did also reveal all of the score streaks. I plan on covering that in a separate video simply because I want to be able to dive into quite a bit of depth with that video. So without further ado, let's start this off with all of the equipment we can expect to see at launch for multiplayer. And we'll start this off with the tactical category. And with this, of course, we have our concussion and flashbang grenade. No surprises there. We also have a spy cam, and this one is brand new. And the description for this says, quickly mark enemies and hostile equipment and score streaks for your team. And that really doesn't give us too much of an indication of how this actually works in-game, like what the characteristics of it are. Like, is it a placeable item or an item that you like pull up and it just quickly marks everything that's in your field of view? Honestly, at this stage, we don't really know, and time will have to tell on that one. But then, of course, after that, we have the smoke grenade, no surprise there, the prox alarm, which we had access to in the beta, the stim shot, which I've actually adjusted from the beta, so the stim shot will now automatically regenerate without having to use any perks. Then, of course, we have the decoy from the beta, which, interestingly, with this version of the decoy, it will stick to surfaces. I didn't actually manage to play around with it at all throughout the beta, so I didn't realize that it was different in that way. And then finally, for tacticals, we have the shock charge, which with their description of this, they mention it's an electrical trap that sticks to surfaces and electrocutes enemies, stunning them. And that's pretty interesting because typically with a shock charge, another aspect of it is if you get affected by the shock charge, it's going to force you to fire your gun and also force you into hip fire. And there was no mention of that in the description. So we'll have to see if they've actually made some adjustments to the shock charge or if it's just a case of the description not being very thorough here. In either case, that's it for the tactical equipment at launch. Now let's talk about lethals. And with this, we've got the Molotov, the Blast Trap, which we did have access to in the beta, and it was a little bit annoying since it's like a claymore with a 360-degree radius. Quite surprisingly, we've also got the Drill Charge. This will be the first time we see a Drill Charge in a Treyarch game. I didn't see that one coming, but I am happy to see that. I really do enjoy the Drill Charge. We also have the Combat Axe, of course, the frag grenade, the sticky grenade, the C4, the thermo grenade, and then finally the impact grenade, which we didn't have access to in the beta, but we have seen a little bit of footage of this. I really hope they balance this one properly where it's basically only a one-hit kill with a direct impact, but give it some better characteristics compared to the others, like maybe a faster throw speed, for instance. I think that would be really nice to see. I also do find it quite interesting that we have both Molotov as well as a thermo grenade. Now, they do have slightly different characteristics, but they both fill a pretty similar role as far as I can tell. And that wraps it up for all of our lethal and tactical equipment. Now let's get into field upgrades. And first, of course, we have all of the beta field upgrades that we had access to. So the assault pack, the trophy system, the neurogas, acoustic amp, and sleeper agent. Although interestingly, with the description they just shared for sleeper agent, it says that kills extend the time. Whereas a blog post we got a little while back where they were discussing some of the changes they're planning on making from beta till launch, in that blog post with sleeper agent, they mentioned they removed the time added when earning eliminations while sleeper agent's active. So I'm curious to see if this was just an oversight on the description here or if they ended up changing their mind and they're not going to be changing that with sleeper agent. I suspect it's the former rather than the latter, but we will find out soon enough. Then, as for new field upgrades for launch that we didn't have access to in the beta, the first one here is the Spring Mine. And with this one, it's just described as an anti-infantry mine. And we actually saw a tiny bit of gameplay footage from the initial reveal of Black Ops 6. And from the looks of it, it seems to behave just like a bouncing Betty would. Although since it's a field upgrade, I suspect it's going to be even bigger. But overall, I'm a little bit confused about their decision here with this field upgrade because we have the blast trap in the lethal equipment. And with the blast trap, it's not like a bouncing Betty that launches up in the air where you have the ability to crouch or go prone under it to avoid damage, or at least avoid lethal damage. Instead, with that blast trap, you just trigger it and it explodes and it deals damage in a 360-degree radius. So as far as we can tell, there's less counterplay to the lethal piece of equipment that you spawn in with every single time compared to the field upgrade, which you have to charge up, and you'll presumably only get access to this a few times in a match. Now, since the scatter mine is a field upgrade, I suspect it is going to be dealing a lot more damage overall, but from what we can tell based on that little gameplay clip, it does appear there's going to be a lot more counterplay to that than there will be to the blast trap. In either case, the next field upgrade we have access to that wasn't in the beta is the Scrambler, and this is just a placeable field upgrade that creates an area that disrupts enemy equipment, field upgrades, score streaks, and mini-maps. We've seen multiple iterations of this in the past, so no surprises here. Then we've got a brand new and very interesting field upgrade called the Signal Lure, and this one I really like the sounds of. With this, When you activate it, it reveals your position to enemy players, but while it's active, you'll also earn bonus score for kills and for staying alive while it's active. So it's basically the come and get me sort of field upgrade. And I'm very curious to see how this reveals your position. Like, is it just going to be on the mini map, or is there going to be more to it than that? Like, are enemies going to get brief glimpses with like a wall hack at you or something? Either way, I love the sounds of this and I can't wait to break this down. I'm very excited to see exactly how this works in game and like how much bonus score you get for kills. Are you going to be able to get like your top score streaks really quickly if you pop this and manage to string a bunch of kills together quickly? I'm very curious to find out. After that one, we've got another brand new and unique field upgrade, and this one is called War Cry, and with this, when you activate it, it will improve nearby allies' movement speed and health regeneration speed for a duration. And presumably that would also apply to you. If it's applying to your teammates in the vicinity, it should also be applying to you, and I suspect it will be. But I really like the sound of that one as well. That's really going to push a lot of aggressive play, and it's neat that it also helps teammates that are around you. After that, we've got the tactical insertion, which is no surprise, not really much to say here. You drop it, it sets your spawn point for the next life. And finally, for brand new field upgrades, unfortunately, we have the morphine injector. And with this one, for a duration, fatal damage puts you into a last stand state, and teammates can revive you, or if you get a kill, you will self-revive. And it's no surprise that myself and many other in the community are not really happy to see this. Last Stand was a perk that was almost universally hated back in the old days of COD, and it was celebrated so heavily when it was removed from the game. I'm sure many of you old school guys remember that Robert Bowling clip announcing that Last Stand wouldn't be in the game, and it was heavily applauded when that announcement came. So for some reason, they decided to bring it back as a field upgrade in Black Ops 6. Now, at the end of the day, I'm sure this is going to be a lot less frustrating than it was as a perk in the game. We, of course, don't know all of the timings. We don't know exactly how this works. I also suspect you have to activate this, and then it's active for a limited period of time. And if you don't get downed in that limited period of time, then you just wasted your field upgrade. I hope that's the case at least. So therefore, there's at least a little bit of foresight needed to take advantage of this properly. You have to be popping it at the right time to potentially take advantage of it. But overall, I would say my biggest concern with this one isn't just the frustration of Last Stand, it's primarily the potential for invincibility frames. And I swear I experienced this in kill order throughout the beta of Black Ops 6. It's going to be the same thing as when you down an HVT player, they go into that Last Stand state. In the process of that animation transition as they're going down, it definitely seemed that for a brief period of time, they were invincible and bullets wouldn't deal damage to them as they were going down. And that's the part that I really don't want to see with this field upgrade, is pumping rounds into somebody as they're transitioning into that down state, only for those rounds to do absolutely nothing to them. And oftentimes, after winning a gunfight, especially if you've been in multiple gunfights, those are the last rounds in your magazine. And you may have handled that situation flawlessly and put those shots on target flawlessly, but it doesn't matter. Those bullets didn't count, and therefore you die. So that's my biggest concern with this field upgrade. At the end of the day, we have to see exactly how they end up balancing it. I suspect it won't be heavily used, especially by good players. I don't think we're going to be seeing a ton of usage of this. So I'm not going to be hyperbolic like, oh my god, this is totally game breaking, this game is ruined. It's just one of those things where it's like, why? I thought we were past the Last Stand nonsense in Call of Duty, and they're bringing it back. But there we go, that wraps it up for all of the field upgrades we'll have access to at launch. Now let's get into wildcards. And in the beta, we only had access to 3 of the wildcards. We had Overkill, Gunfighter, and Perk Greed. However, it turns out there are 3 more that we'll have access to at launch as well. And the first one is Tactical Expert, and they mention you spawn in with 2 extra tacticals, and that's really interesting. So from the sounds of that, you actually get 3 tacticals on spawn, because you're getting 2 extra. In either case, there's also Danger Close, which allows you to spawn with an extra lethal, so it looks like just 1 extra lethal here, instead of 2 like the Tactical Expert one provides. But then finally for wildcards, we have Prepper, and this one says equip 2 different field upgrades. So this is like Field Upgrade Pro from Modern Warfare 2019 in the form of a wildcard. And I think it's well suited to a wildcard. I actually quite like that. And I think a lot of people are going to be happy to see that return into the game, at least in some form. And with that, for this video, this just leaves us with the perks. And there's not too much to say about perks or combat specialties here, simply because very little has changed from beta till launch. We had access to every single launch perk in the beta of the game, so there's nothing new here. And also, I went through all of the descriptions for these perks, compared them to the beta build of the game. None of the descriptions have changed whatsoever. So there was really only one key change that was made to perks, and this was outlined in that Road to Launch blog post. And with this, all they did is they took the Assassin perk and the Bruiser perk from tier 1 and moved those into tier 2, and then they took Dexterity and Gung Ho from tier 2 and moved them to tier 1. So they just sort of swapped the positions around a little bit there, but the perks themselves appear to behave exactly the same as what we experienced in the beta. And with that, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video, just covering all of the equipment and field upgrades and wildcards and perks that we're gonna have access to at launch for Black Ops 6. Like I said, I will be covering score streaks as well, but I felt that deserved a separate video just because I want to dive into a bit more detail rather than just trying to squeeze it into a short section of this video. But this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you guys feeling about everything I outlined in today's video? Especially some of the new field upgrades, and I'm sure the big one that many of you guys will want to talk about is that Morphine Injector, which allows you to go into Last Stand as a field upgrade. Are you guys like me and not too happy that they're bringing that into the game? Do you not really care too much, or are you actually happy they're bringing that into the game? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.